And for more, let's bring in Chael Sonnen and Gil Melendez here to break this down, because they've actually been in the octagon. They know what that's like, and they also know what it's like the day before for weigh-ins. You just heard them talking about the weight loss that led to dehydration. What happened?
Yeah, this is a really shocking. I don't want to kick anybody while they're down, but to speak on what happened here, look, this was a lack of discipline. We know Khabib can make the weight because he's done it 23 other times. He knew about this fight. This was not a short notice situation. So what went wrong in the weight cut? I don't know. Doug, I will tell you this, and I think this is a credit to Khabib. He pushed it to the very end. He pushed his limit so much that he ended up in the hospital. The commission, in conjunction with the UFC, actually pulled this fight. He did not call up and say, I'm out. But at the same time, he didn't start quick enough.
You know, I feel for Khabib. It sucks that happened to him, but this is his job as a fighter. You train for 8 weeks in a training camp, but you also prepare 8 weeks to diet, so on fight week, you have a smooth weight cut. So it was his responsibility. I feel bad that he's sick, but I do not sympathize. His job is to show up, make weight, and fight. Simple. 3 things. Show up, make weight, and fight, and he couldn't do that. And he's missed weight before. So if he did everything he had to do to make weight, he needs to consider either moving up a weight or he was undisciplined.
All right, that's the perspective from actual fighters who've had to do it. All right, let's go to a fight that will actually happen inside the octagon. Second fight between Stephen Thompson and Tyron Woodley. Title bet on the line. The first meeting was a majority draw. So what adjustments do you expect from Thompson here?
All right, listen, if I'm Thompson, let me use Gilbert real fast. If I'm Thompson, here's what he did so well, Doug. He kept the distance. He was able to keep Tyron at bay. He kept throwing kicks. He'd fake a kick. He'd throw it straight down the middle. Eventually, he wore down a little bit, though. He didn't quite have all of these same distractions. He wasn't using the same amount of volume, and Tyron was able to get to him. But if I am the Wonder Boy in this fight, I keep those kicks going. I keep the All-American wrestler at bay, and I don't have to worry about the takedown.
And it went the full 5 rounds. That's 25 minutes, so it's easy to tire. What about adjustments from Woodley?
Well, Tyron, I think both of these guys respected each other a lot, and they were both a little bit conservative. But also, Wonderboy Thompson does have that karate stance, which makes it so hard. It was almost a mystery at first for Tyron Woodley, but in the 4th round, he was able to close the distance. So he needs to be aggressive here. He needs to close the distance, but he can't walk into those kicks that Chael was talking about. So he has to feint, make him kick, step back, find a way to close the distance, throw that big right hand, or do the same thing, feint, look for him to draw in, as well as get a single leg takedown, take him to the mat. He had success with the right hand and some great ground and pound. He exposed Wonderboy on his back. Very tough riddle to solve, but he solved a little bit in the 4th. Let's see if he can do it tomorrow.
See, I agree with what he just said. I think the hardest thing about fighting Wonderboy is that awkwardness, that uniqueness. You can't bring anybody in, even in the practice room, to spar that's like him. And once Tyron got 15 and 16 minutes in, he did start to solve that puzzle a little bit better.
Glad you didn't demonstrate on me. You went straight to Gil. All right, picks. What do you got?
I think it's Ann Still. I think that Tyron Woodley really did. I think those previous 5 rounds are going to benefit him more than they do the Wonder Boy retains his title.
I think Tyron does retain his title in this as well, and I think he needs to just be aggressive and take a little bit more risk and find that target earlier in the fight, and he'll be successful.
And because it is a title fight, it can go the full 5 rounds, 5 minutes apiece. Chael Sonnen and Gil Melendez here on SportsCenter.
Not bad. Not bad.
When they're not looking, the sneak attack.
Co-host Frank Mir being joined now by the UFC welterweight champion of the world, Tyron Woodley. He's got a huge fight coming up Saturday night, a rematch title defense against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson here in Las Vegas. UFC 209 seen exclusively on pay-per-view. Tyron, good to talk to you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
We're doing great and looking forward to seeing this rematch, man. Frank and I were just talking about the fact that, I want to ask your thoughts first on, the way with that fight being scored so closely the first time around, do you think that the new rule changes that have been implemented since would have affected the fight in your favor? Because we were both talking about the fact that that first round you had might have been scored a 10-8 round with those new rules.
Well,
right,
yeah, and
Frank?
I think the fact that now that it's not so much a fucking looking for a unicorn on what a 10-8 round stands for. I don't think with the new rule system, I think it's everybody's mindset that the 1st and 4th rounds are 10-8 rounds for you.
What are your thoughts on that, Tyron?
Yeah, definitely. I think the 1st and the 4th round was definitely rounds where you can see the lopsided battle that took place. Even in rounds 2, 3, and 5 were close rounds. He never walked away with any rounds, to be honest. So with that said, I'm not so much thinking about the new rules and hoping that helps me. I'm really thinking about the opportunities within each round that could have capitalized a little bit more. looking to capitalize in this next fight.
And also in the fight, I mean, obviously, Wonder Boy's good at the point game, picking away, scoring points, moving. But really in the fight, both on the ground and both on the feet, the fighter that showed me that he was more capable of finishing the other guy was yourself. I mean, that guillotine was a heartbeat away from putting him to sleep, and your right hand almost knocked him unconscious to begin with. So as far as the most devastating ways to finish a fight, does that bring you much more confidence going into the fight, knowing that, well, he never once put me in danger with a submission, I took his shots, never once was I wobbled, but I dropped him, and I almost put him out with a choke?
And more so importantly, I did a good job in that fight, but it was still things that my coaches and my trainers prepared me for as a part of our game plan that I didn't execute. So with thinking that I still, in my mind, won the fight without executing those things, if I execute just 50% of what we had intact, I walk away with the fight pretty easily. So to me, the confidence lies there. And, I never want to get too confident. He could land a hook kick or a side kick to my rib or a lead leg roundhouse kick that, after a combination, get me caught slipping with my hands down and kind of rattle me. So I never want to go in there, nothing hurt me, nothing hit me.
Right. But also, too, you have a style that, is more common in MMA as far as, phenomenal wrestling background, heavy hands. It isn't like we can't find guys in the gym that obviously they're not world champion level at how good you perform that style, but we've seen it before where, a George St. Pierre, but, he doesn't hit as hard as you do. But, the other guys out there that, whereas Wonder Boy kind of has that thing where it's like it's hard to fight him because no one really fights like him. And now the one edge he probably had going into this, the fight the first time was that you probably don't really have that many rounds checked off on a guy who moves the way he does, and now you have 25 minutes of experience seeing his A game, and now you've had months to go ahead and go, okay, well, the coaches asked me to do this, and I had a hard time implementing it because it was odd and weird what he was moving, but now I felt it. Now I know what I'm training for, and that much more better for you to implement it on Saturday night.
So definitely, I trained to the best of my ability the last time. I was really comfortable, as you saw. Some of the things that he caught other opponents with. I fortunately was able to defend those attacks. This time around, I've had more weeks with Raymond Daniels, more weeks with Sage Northcutt, more weeks with Avery Plowden, the current world champion in his weight, and also Chris Bang and a few other guys, Obeda from Orlando. So I've had 5 or 6 high-level point fighters, and most of those guys are really say, Steven's a great fighter, but in the world of sport karate, he's not on our level. So that just reassured me when I was able to handle my own against those guys.
Tyron, lastly for you, I think a lot of us in the MMA media were anticipating that Demian Maia could get the winner of this fight Saturday night, and now it's just been announced in the last 24 hours or so that Demian Maia has been booked against Jorge Masvidal just a few days before the welterweight title is defended. Frank and I are sitting here speculating that is an indication that the winner of your fight with Wonderboy Thompson Saturday night could get George St. Pierre, that maybe that fight has already been offered to him, and he's jumped in front of Maia. Do you have a thought about that conspiracy theory?
I don't have a ton of thought about it. It's a crazy, crazy world of mixed martial arts. Things happen, guys get injured. The bosses change their mind. The thing I can tell you that will happen is me and Wonderboy will fight Saturday night. I will come out victorious, and every door after that opens up in victory. So it's hard not to, man. I understand why you guys would ask that question. It's just from my standpoint, you always kind of want to play your chess game, looking at other opponents and seeing who brings what. But you got a very unique fighter in Wonderboy. You got to give him your full attention.
Understood, but I think that also, and we're going to do it, I know that you don't want to as a fighter myself, but looking past Wonderboy, I think a fight with George St. Pierre stylistically is a great fight for you. You're the harder hitter, and your wrestling, I think, nullifies each other out. And I think that's what you would need, I think, at this point, because you're out there and you're successful. You have a phenomenal style. I mean, you ran over Robbie Lawler, just completely trashed a guy that no one does that to. You out there and solved the enigma of Wonderboy Thompson, and still it seems like you're not getting the credit due that really for somebody that has accomplished what you have is due. But maybe that next step is taking out the legend of Georges St-Pierre. He comes back in the system. A victory there would solidify that you really are the welterweight #1 guy in the world.
Yeah, I want to be the GOAT at welterweight, and right now George is that, and I would never turn down. If they told me that freaking I could fight Georges St-Pierre right now, I would freaking go and apologize to Wonderboy, and I would freaking do the contract. That's how important that fight is to me, just because it's a legacy fight. But at the end of the day, we know for sure that Wonderboy's prepared. He's ready. I'm prepared. I'm ready. Let's get this fight out of the way, and then, in victory, I have the biggest stage to make my case on why I should be fighting George.
Tyron Woodley headlines UFC 209 Saturday night, defending his welterweight title. Tyron, thanks for the time, man, and good luck in there Saturday night.
Thank you.
So what do you think there?